Marriage. It's one of the biggest decisions of your life. But are you truly ready for it? Whether you're someone who's been dodging the idea or someone eagerly preparing for that next step, the journey isn't always as straightforward as it seems. From avoiding the temptation to settle for less to understanding the deeper qualities that make a lasting partnership, the preparation for marriage is more about building yourself than anything else. Curious how to navigate this life-changing path? Let's dive into 7 key steps that will set you up for success starting now. There was a time in my life when the thought of marriage didn't appeal to me at all. I was around 21 years old, deeply involved in ministry and loving life. At that point, I was a Sunday school teacher, a church college leader, and I had an incredible community of friends. I felt so fulfilled and close to God that I couldn't imagine marriage adding anything positive to my life. In fact, I actually thought it would hold me back. I used to have what you might call a Batman complex. I loved the idea of doing things alone, focusing on my goals, moving fast, and getting things done in ministry. The idea of a partner slowing me down seemed unnecessary. But as time passed, my perspective shifted, and at 31 I got married. Looking back now, I can honestly say that my life, my ministry, and my impact feel so much fuller and more complete because of my wife. I want to make it clear here that I'm no marriage expert. I've only been married for about 3 months. But I've learned some valuable lessons during this time that I believe could help you whether you're already married or just thinking about taking the plunge. So today, I'm going to share some of the steps I took to prepare for marriage, steps that I hope can guide you as well if you're in the same boat. Whether you're someone who's eager to get married or you're more like, I was hesitant to tie the knot and maybe enjoying the single life. The truth is, we all need to do some personal work before we make such a big commitment. The good news is that the journey is all about taking small steps toward growth that can make all the difference when it's time to enter into marriage. Part 2, Step 1, Don't settle for less. One of the first lessons I learned was to never settle for less in a relationship. And this is where the story of Samson and Delilah comes in. In the Bible, specifically in the book of Judges, we read about Samson, one of the most famous figures in biblical history. He was known for his incredible strength, his warrior-like feats, and his deep connection with God. But Samson had a major flaw. He allowed his feelings to cloud his judgment, especially when it came to relationships. You see, Samson fell for Delilah, a woman who didn't truly have his best interests at heart. Despite her being paid by the Philistines to betray him, he stayed with her. This is a classic case of what can happen when we settle for less than what God intends for us. In your own journey toward marriage, you might be tempted to settle for someone just because they look good or you get along well enough. But I want to urge you not to make the same mistake that Samson made. Don't get involved in relationships where you know deep down that the person doesn't truly have your back or isn't aligned with your values. The reality is, we often find ourselves staying in toxic or unwise relationships simply because we're emotionally involved and we don't want to face the hard truth. We've all been there in one way or another, and it's so easy to ignore the red flags when love is involved. But trust me, if you settle for less, you might end up regretting it down the road. Just like Samson learned the hard way, settling for less will only lead to more pain and heartache. Part 3, Step 2, Know what you want. Now this next step is vital. Know what you want in a partner. You can't prepare for marriage properly unless you're crystal clear about what you're looking for. The Bible, specifically in Proverbs chapter 31 verse 10, talks about the virtues of a godly wife. King Solomon says, "Who can find a virtuous wife? For her worth is far above rubies." He goes on to describe the qualities of a woman who has strong character, who works hard, and who is wise. But most importantly, he emphasizes that physical attraction is temporary. What lasts is the fear of the Lord and a heart that is virtuous and full of wisdom. When I was single, I found this verse really helpful. I realized that I couldn't base my idea of a good partner solely on physical attraction because, let's face it, looks change over time. Instead, I focused on character. Gary Thomas, in his book Sacred Search, talks about how many guys get so caught up in a woman's appearance that they overlook the most important factor, her character. And trust me, that's something that's going to stick around much longer than any fleeting attraction. For me, I had 4 key standards that I needed a partner to meet before I would even consider dating. First, physical attraction. I needed to feel drawn to her. Second, emotional connection. I wanted someone I could be best friends with. Third, spiritual maturity. Her relationship with God had to be genuine and strong. And lastly, Common values I needed to know we shared the same vision for life. Part 4. Step 3. Build your character. As you work on identifying the qualities you want in a spouse, don't forget about yourself. Build your own character. Second, Peter. Chapter 1, verses 5 through 8 is an essential passage when it comes to preparing for marriage. It encourages us to add virtue to our faith, to grow in knowledge, and to develop self-control. This is a huge step for anyone considering marriage. Marriage is tough, and it brings out both the best and the worst in us. The reality is, when you enter into a relationship, you're bringing all of your strengths and weaknesses along with you. That's why it's so important to work on building your own character first. Don't neglect your own spiritual life, your goals, and your personal growth just because you're focusing on someone else. When you're solid as an individual, your relationship will be stronger too. I believe that growing in virtue, self-control, and perseverance will help you build a foundation for a strong, lasting marriage. But these things don't happen overnight. You've got to take intentional steps to develop your character both before and during your marriage. You can't build a strong partnership if you're not actively working on yourself. Part 5, Step 4. Focus on your walk with God. Finally, the most crucial step of all, focus on your walk with God. Mark chapter 12, verse 30 tells us that the first commandment is to love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. If you're a follower of Christ, this should be your top priority. Your relationship with God has to come before everything else, including your marriage. I know it's tempting to think that marriage will fulfill all your needs, but let me tell you, it won't. No human relationship can ever give you the sense of purpose and satisfaction that only God can. If you make your spouse the center of your world, you're setting yourself up for disappointment. When things get tough in marriage, because they will, you'll need God to help you through those challenges. So, as you prepare for marriage, focus on your relationship with God. Spend time in His Word. Pray, seek fellowship with other believers, and serve in ministry. The closer you get to God, the more He will equip you to be the partner your future spouse needs. Let's dive a bit deeper into the idea of not settling for less. It's tempting, I know. You meet someone and maybe they check some of the boxes for you. Maybe they're nice, you feel comfortable around them, or there's some level of attraction. But here's the thing, you need to ask yourself, is this the best I can do? Is this what God has in mind for me? I used to think that just being in a relationship was enough, that simply having someone by my side would bring fulfillment. But over time, I realized that this kind of thinking was more about my own needs than the actual compatibility of the relationship. And that's where the danger lies. It's easy to get caught up in the emotion of love and ignore the wisdom that God has given us. That's why we have to be intentional in how we approach relationships. If you're in a relationship, don't just stick around because it feels comfortable. Make sure you're with someone who truly shares your values and your vision for the future. Ask yourself if the person you're with challenges you to grow closer to God, supports your dreams, and shares your goals for life. And if you're not in a relationship, yet don't rush into one just to fill a gap. Take your time. Be intentional about who you invest your time and emotions in. Trust me, it's much better to be single and focused on your growth than to be in a relationship that doesn't align with your purpose. Now, I'm not saying you need to be perfect before you get into a relationship. None of us are. We all have our flaws. But you do need to know what you're looking for and what you're not willing to compromise on. When I was single, I had to learn that God had a plan for my life, and it didn't include me settling for a relationship that wasn't in alignment with that plan. If you settle for less, you're not only doing a disservice to yourself, but to your future spouse as well. They deserve someone who's fully committed to the relationship, someone who's whole and ready to partner with them in God's purpose for their lives. And let me tell you, that's not something you'll find in just any relationship. So take the time to figure out what you want. Don't settle. You're worth more than that. And your future marriage will be stronger because of it. Step 2, know what you want. This one goes hand in hand with the first step. Know what you want. Once you've decided you're not going to settle for less, it's time to get specific about the kind of person you want to marry. Proverbs chapter 31 verse 10 tells us, "Who can find a virtuous wife? For her worth is far above rubies." King Solomon points out that the value of a godly woman goes beyond physical appearance. Her worth is in her character. So this isn't about finding someone who looks great or says all the right things. It's about finding someone whose values align with yours, someone who will be a supportive and loving partner for the long haul. For me, when I was single, I set standards. I wanted to know exactly what I was looking for in a wife. and I wasn't willing to compromise. I set my standards high, and I made sure any woman I dated had to meet those standards. Here's what I was looking for. First, I needed to be physically attracted to her. This is important. After all, you're going to spend a lifetime together and you want to be drawn to your spouse. But beyond that, I wanted someone I could connect with emotionally. We needed to be close friends first before anything else. Spiritual maturity was also huge for me. I wanted someone whose relationship with God was strong and genuine. And lastly, I wanted someone with values that matched my own, someone who cared about the things I cared about and had a similar vision for life. I know this might sound like a lot to ask for, but it wasn't. These were non-negotiables for me. And I think it's important that we all identify those things in a partner. What are the qualities that matter most to you? What can't you live without? And just as importantly, what qualities can't you tolerate? Here's the thing. Dating around is fine, but make sure you're dating with purpose. Don't just go through the motions. Get to know the person, and if they don't align with your core values, don't waste time hoping that things will change. If your relationship is built on shaky ground from the start, it won't take long before it crumbles. It's also important to note that just as you know what you want in a partner, you should also be the kind of person who can give those qualities in return. If you want a spouse who's emotionally mature, make sure you're emotionally mature too. If you want someone who has a strong relationship with God, be sure you're walking that path yourself. Marriage is a partnership, and both people need to bring their best selves to the table. Step 3. Build your character. This step is so vital because marriage is not just about finding the right person. It's about being the right person. Building your character is key. In 2 Peter chapter 1, verses 5 to 8, we're reminded to add virtue to our faith, and then to continue adding to that knowledge. Self-control, perseverance, godliness, kindness, and love. We need to keep growing in these areas, especially when we're preparing for marriage. The last thing you want is to enter a marriage with character flaws that will affect the relationship down the road. And believe me, it's easy to neglect personal growth when you're focused on someone else. But you can't forget about your own development. As you get ready for marriage, be intentional about growing in your faith. Work on becoming more patient, more understanding, and more loving. Character is what holds a marriage together when the inevitable challenges arise. When you and your spouse face tough times, it's your character, not your emotions, that will help you navigate those moments. So take time to develop your integrity, your values, and your relationship with God. If you're not working on your own personal growth, you're not ready for marriage. It's as simple as that. All right, now we're diving into what I believe is the most important step in preparing for marriage. Focus on your walk with God. It's easy to get wrapped up in the idea of finding the right partner, getting married, and starting a family. But if you don't have a solid foundation in your relationship with God, everything else will fall apart. Mark chapter 12, verse 30 says, "And you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, and with all your strength." This is the first commandment. The greatest commandment in the Bible isn't love your spouse or love your future partner, it's love God first. And there's a reason for that. If you want a successful, lasting marriage, you have to start with your relationship with God. When I was preparing for marriage, I realized that I couldn't make my future wife the center of my world. I loved her, of course, but I had to love God even more. Your spouse cannot and should not be the sole source of your joy, fulfillment, and purpose. If you place all your hope and identity in your relationship with your spouse, you're setting yourself up for disappointment. Marriage is a beautiful thing, but it's not perfect. There will be times of struggle, and at those times, the foundation of your relationship with God will be what sustains you. There will be arguments, disagreements, and challenges, and you'll need God to guide you through those moments. If your relationship with God isn't solid, you won't have the strength to work through the tough times in your marriage. When my wife and I have disagreements, it's our shared faith in God that helps us navigate through them. And that doesn't mean that everything is always smooth sailing. But when we're connected to God, it's like having a lifeline that keeps us grounded no matter what storms come our way. I challenge you to evaluate where you are in your walk with God. Are you prioritizing your relationship with Him? Are you spending time reading His Word, praying and seeking His guidance? Are you involved in a community of believers who can encourage and support you? These are all essential to building a solid foundation before entering into marriage. The truth is, if you don't have a strong relationship with God, you're setting yourself up for failure in marriage. It's not just about finding the right person, It's about becoming the right person. And that begins with God. You have to build your life on the truth of who God is and what He says about love, commitment, and relationships. Without that, everything else will be unstable. Step 5. Build emotional and spiritual resilience. Next up, let's talk about building resilience both emotionally and spiritually. Marriage isn't always easy, and no matter how perfect the relationship seems at the start, every couple will face challenges. The key is to be emotionally and spiritually prepared to handle them. What does that look like? It means developing the emotional maturity to handle conflict, to forgive and to communicate effectively. It means being spiritually grounded enough to handle the ups and downs of life and marriage. Building resilience means preparing your heart and mind for the hard times ahead and understanding that growth comes through challenges. When I first got married, I thought the hard work of preparation was over. But then reality set in. Suddenly, I was living with someone else 24/7, and I had to adjust. I had to learn how to navigate disagreements, understand my wife's perspective, and be a better listener. I quickly realized that my emotional resilience needed work, and so did my spiritual resilience. Marriage wasn't just about love, it was about sacrificial love, about putting someone else's needs before my own and learning to serve them selflessly. Here's something I learned that really helped. It's important to realize that marriage isn't just about what I can get from it. It's about what I can give. There will be times when you'll have to lay down your own preferences, your own desires, and your own pride for the sake of your spouse. That's not always easy, and it requires emotional and spiritual strength. But the more you grow in those areas, the more prepared you'll be for the challenges that come. Being spiritually resilient also means having a strong prayer life, seeking God's wisdom, and leaning on Him in moments of uncertainty. Life will throw things at you that you didn't expect: financial struggles, health issues, or unexpected circumstances. But if you've built up your resilience through a solid walk with God, you'll be able to weather those storms together with your spouse. Step 6, be open to change. I want to emphasize one more thing about preparing for marriage: be open to change. When you get married, you're not just marrying someone else, you're also marrying into a new season of your own life. Your life will change in ways you may not expect, and you need to be ready for that. You may have certain routines, habits, or ways of doing things that you're attached to, and that's fine. But marriage will challenge you to grow and adapt in ways you never thought possible. I'll be honest with you, when I first got married, I had to adjust in many areas, from my schedule to how I communicated. I had to learn how to compromise and make space for my wife's needs and desires. At times, it was uncomfortable, but it was also incredibly rewarding. Change doesn't just happen in the little things. It happens in the big things, too. Your roles will evolve, and your priorities may shift. You may go through seasons of financial strain, or you may have children that change the dynamic of your marriage completely. Being open to change means embracing the challenges and the growth that come with them. Marriage is a lifelong journey of becoming more like Christ, and that means continually being refined. So as you prepare for marriage, make sure you're ready for the changes that come. Be flexible, be adaptable, and be willing to change for the better, both for yourself and for your future spouse. Step 7. Build a strong support system. Lastly, you need to build a strong support system. You can't do this alone. Marriage is a partnership, and it's one that thrives when you have people around you who can offer wisdom, support, and accountability. Whether it's family, friends, or a small group of believers, make sure you have people in your life who can encourage you in your marriage journey. So to sum it all up, don't settle for less. Know what you want in a partner. Build your character. Focus on your walk with God. Prepare emotionally and spiritually. Be open to change, and surround yourself with a strong support system. These steps will help you build a foundation for a strong, godly marriage. I hope this has been helpful for you as you think about your own journey toward marriage. It's a big decision, and preparation is key. If you're committed to these steps, I truly believe you'll be ready for the beautiful adventure of marriage. When it comes to marriage, one thing I learned quickly was the importance of patience, and I mean real patience. You can't rush into marriage just because you feel like it's time, or because everyone else around you is getting married. You have to trust God's timing and wait for the right moment, the right partner, and the right circumstances. I'm not going to sugarcoat. This waiting can be tough, especially when you see other people your age getting married, or when you feel like you've hit a certain age and the pressure is on. I know the feeling of wanting to find the right person and get it over with. But here's the truth. Patience is vital. and it's something God will use to grow you in ways you never expected. I had to learn this the hard way. There were times when I was frustrated, wondering why I wasn't meeting the right person or why I had to wait so long. But as I look back now, I realize that God was preparing me. He was molding my character, deepening my relationship with Him, and getting me ready for the life I would build with my wife. I think there's a tendency to want to rush things, especially when it feels like time is slipping away. But rushing marriage doesn't lead to good things. It often leads to settling for someone who might not be the right fit, or entering into a relationship without the emotional and spiritual preparation needed to make it last. Trusting God's timing doesn't mean sitting back and doing nothing. It means continuing to grow, to prepare, and to make wise choices while waiting for the right person to come along. Don't get discouraged during the waiting period. God is using that time to refine you, to make you more like Christ, and to make you the kind of person who will be a great spouse when the right time comes. It's important to realize that marriage is a covenant, not a contract. A covenant involves commitment, trust, and mutual respect. It's not something you rush into because it looks good or because it's what you should do. It's about waiting for God's perfect plan for your life to unfold. I promise you, when you're in the right relationship at the right time and with the right person, it will be worth every moment of waiting. Step 9. Communicate effectively. Another critical step in preparing for marriage is learning how to communicate well. Communication is key to any relationship, but it's even more important in marriage. The truth is, you're going to disagree, and you're going to have moments where communication breaks down. But what matters is how you handle those moments. Effective communication is about more than just talking. It's about listening, understanding, and responding with kindness and respect. Before I got married, I thought I was a good communicator. I thought I knew how to express myself and be heard. But once I was married, I quickly realized that communication takes effort and intentionality. There were times when I assumed my wife understood what I was thinking, only to realize that I hadn't communicated my thoughts clearly. This is where the concept of active listening comes in. When you're communicating with your spouse, it's not enough to simply hear the words, they need to be understood. I had to learn to stop thinking about what I was going to say next and really listen to what my wife was saying. And it wasn't just about the words. It was about the emotions behind the words, the body language, and the deeper feelings. The Bible has a lot to say about communication in marriage. Proverbs chapter 25, verse 11 tells us that a word fitly spoken is like apples of gold in pictures of silver. In other words, the right words spoken at the right time have immense value. And as we prepare for marriage, we need to learn to speak kindly, thoughtfully, and with love. Effective communication also means learning how to resolve conflicts in a healthy way. Every marriage will face challenges, but how you approach those challenges matters. Are you quick to listen and slow to speak? Do you take the time to really understand your spouse's perspective? Are you willing to humble yourself and apologize when you're wrong? These are questions that every couple must ask, and learning these skills before you get married will save you a lot of heartache in the future. Marriage is not just about sharing the good times together. It's about how you navigate the hard times as a team. Strong communication helps you stay united and connected even during the toughest moments. Step 10. Be prepared to serve and sacrifice. One of the most important things to remember in marriage is that it's not just about you. It's about serving your spouse and being willing to make sacrifices. Marriage is a partnership, and partnerships require both people to give of themselves for the good of the other. Ephesians chapter 5, verse 25 talks about how husbands should love their wives just as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her. This is the ultimate example of sacrificial love. Christ's love for the church was selfless, unconditional, and it cost him everything. As men preparing for marriage, we are called to love our wives in the same way. I remember before I got married, I thought love was all about romance and how I could be treated. But once I got married, I realized that love is about sacrifice. It's about being willing to put your spouse's needs before your own, to serve them even when it's inconvenient, and to care for them when it's hard. Marriage isn't always easy. There will be times when you'll have to give up something you want for the sake of your spouse. You'll have to serve them when you're tired, or sacrifice your own desires to support their dreams. But here's the beautiful thing about it. When both spouses are committed to sacrificial love, it builds a stronger and deeper bond. Preparing for marriage means learning how to give without expecting anything in return. And the more you prepare yourself to serve your future spouse in this way, the more you'll see the beauty of sacrificial love unfold in your relationship. Step 11. Trust in God's plan. Finally, The last step in preparing for marriage is to trust in God's plan for your life. It's easy to get caught up in your own desires, your own timeline, and your own expectations. But marriage is ultimately part of God's plan for you. He knows what's best for you, and He has a purpose for your life and your marriage. I can't tell you how many times I had to remind myself to trust God's plan. I had my own timeline, my own expectations, but God had something better in store. And I can honestly say that I'm thankful for His timing in my life. He knew when the time was right for me to meet my wife, and I'm so grateful that I trusted His plan. So as you prepare for marriage, trust that God will guide you every step of the way. He will bring the right person into your life at the right time, and He will help you build a strong, lasting marriage. Conclusion. Preparing for marriage is a journey of growth, trust, and surrender. It's not about rushing or forcing things. It's about becoming the person God wants you to be and waiting for His perfect timing. By focusing on your character, your walk with God, and your communication skills, you'll be ready for a strong and lasting marriage. And remember, God is with you every step of the way, guiding you into the future He has planned for you. As you prepare for marriage, it's essential to keep a long-term perspective. We live in a world where everything is instant messages, instant food, instant gratification. But marriage isn't like that. It's a lifelong commitment that requires ongoing effort, patience, and perseverance. The honeymoon phase will eventually fade, and you will face challenges that may test your relationship. But it's important to remember that marriage is about much more than just the early days of excitement and infatuation. I've learned that having a long-term view of marriage helps you navigate the seasons. There will be times when it feels like you're just getting by, and there will be times when everything feels like it's going perfectly. But through it all, keep the bigger picture in mind. Marriage isn't just about living happily ever after. It's about two people choosing to grow together, support each other, and honor God through their partnership. When I look back on my first few months of marriage, I realize how much we've already learned and grown together. There have been moments of joy, but there have also been moments where we've had to face challenges. And we've learned that those challenges don't mean that our marriage is failing, they just mean that we're growing. Every challenge is an opportunity to learn to be more patient, to understand each other better, and to deepen our commitment to each other. Having a long-term perspective also means that you're thinking about the legacy you want to leave as a couple. Marriage isn't just about how it affects you two. It's about how it affects your family, your friends, your community, and even your children, if you choose to have them. A strong marriage has the potential to impact generations to come. The way you live out your marriage can inspire those around you and influence how others view love, commitment, and relationships. So as you prepare for marriage, don't just focus on the here and now. Think about the long journey ahead. Think about how you'll navigate the ups and downs, how you'll support each other, and how you'll honor God with your union. Keep that long-term perspective, and you'll be better equipped to handle whatever comes your way. Step 13. Prepare for parenthood if it's in God's plan. One thing that often gets overlooked when preparing for marriage is preparing for parenthood. Whether or not you plan to have children right away or at all, marriage is often the first step toward building a family. And parenting is a major responsibility that requires preparation in many areas. Before my wife and I got married, we spent time talking about our vision for family and children. We discussed things like how we would raise our kids, what values we would instill in them, and how we would balance our careers with family life. Parenting is not something that should be rushed into. It requires intentional thought and preparation. Even if you're not sure if or when you want children, it's good to have a conversation about your expectations and desires for the future. Parenting requires patience, sacrifice, and a deep commitment to your children's well-being. It's not an easy job, and it's not something you can fully prepare for until you're in it. But there are things you can do now to set yourself up for success as parents in the future. One of the most important things you can do is develop your relationship and ensure that you're both on the same page when it comes to your values, your faith, and your goals for your future family. A key element of parenting that often gets overlooked is the importance of maintaining a strong marriage even after children come into the picture. Many couples find that after they have kids, their marriage takes a back seat, and they become consumed by the demands of parenting. It's easy to forget that a strong marriage is the foundation for a healthy family. By investing in your relationship now, you're setting yourselves up for success as parents later. Even if you don't have children right away, talking about your vision for family life will help ensure that you're prepared for that step when it comes. It will also allow you to strengthen your bond as a couple and align your values and priorities. Step 14. Maintain spiritual and emotional intimacy. One of the most important things in a marriage is maintaining spiritual and emotional intimacy. It's easy to get caught up in the busyness of life work and other responsibilities and neglect the emotional and spiritual connection with your spouse. But this is a key component of a strong, lasting marriage. Spiritual intimacy means that you're both growing together in your relationship with God. This can include praying together, reading scripture together, and supporting each other in your individual walks with God. When both partners are spiritually committed, it brings an added strength and unity to the marriage. And of course, when you're spiritually close, it helps you to weather the storms of life together. Emotional intimacy is just as important. This means being vulnerable with your spouse, sharing your thoughts, feelings, and fears openly, and allowing them to do the same. You'll go through difficult seasons in marriage, and emotional intimacy helps you to remain connected even when things get tough. It also allows you to celebrate the good times together and enjoy the emotional bond that makes your relationship truly special. One of the ways my wife and I maintain our emotional and spiritual intimacy is by making time for each other. Whether it's setting aside time for regular date nights, having deep conversations, or praying together, we make it a priority to nurture our relationship. Life can be busy and there are always distractions, but keeping our connection strong both spiritually and emotionally is vital for the long-term health of our marriage. Step 15. Keep the love alive. Finally, don't forget to keep the love alive. Love isn't just a feeling, it's a choice, and it's something that you have to nurture every day. Marriage isn't always easy, but if you continue to invest in your relationship, keep learning about each other, and make love a priority, you'll create a relationship that lasts. This means showing affection, expressing your love regularly, and making your spouse feel valued and appreciated. Love requires effort, but it's effort that will always be worth it. Love is not only about being in love with your spouse, it's about choosing to love them even when things aren't perfect. Continue to nurture that love throughout your marriage, and it will grow stronger with time. Conclusion: preparing for the journey. Preparing for marriage is about more than just finding the right person. It's about becoming the right person, trusting God's timing and building a foundation for a lasting, God-honoring relationship. By focusing on your relationship with God, your character communication, emotional intimacy, and patience, you're setting yourself up for a successful marriage. And when the time comes, whether you're parents or not, you'll be ready to tackle the challenges and celebrate the joys of marriage together. Keep in mind that marriage is a lifelong journey. It won't always be easy, but with God at the center and a heart committed to serving and loving each other, it will be one of the most rewarding experiences of your life. Stay committed, stay patient, and trust in God's perfect plan for your marriage. Preparing for marriage is a journey of growth, patience, and deepening your connection with God. It's about building a strong foundation, knowing yourself, knowing what you want, and being ready to love selflessly. When you approach marriage with intention, trust, and faith, you're setting yourself up for a partnership that honors both God and your spouse. If this video resonated with you, I'd love for you to give it a like and subscribe for more content. Thanks for watching, and remember, your best days in marriage are ahead.